Hello guys, welcome to my channel. I am your host Kitanjali. As we are discussing cell organelles, so our next topic is cell wall. So before starting this video, I just want you all to see my previous video for your better understanding and then jump into this video. So let's start with cell wall. So what is the definition of cell wall? Cell wall is a rigid outer covering of plant cell which helps to protect plant cell, and it is absent in animal cell. So we can say that cell wall is a wall which is the outer covering of plant cell and which helps to protect plant cell. So cell wall is only present in plant cell but absent in animal cell, and it is the outer covering, a rigid outer covering, which helps to protect plant cell. So the protection is the main function of cell wall in plant cell. Now, composition of plant cell. Now, composition. So the composition of cell wall is, it is composed of carbohydrates like pectin, cellulose and hemicellulose. Plant cell wall. Cell wall is not only present in plant but also it is present in bacteria and algae. So they have the different compositions. So one by one we will discuss it. So plant cell wall is composed of carbohydrates like pectin, cellulose and hemicellulose. And the bacterial cell wall is composed of peptidoglycans, and the cell wall of the algae is composed of cellulose, galactans, minerals like calcium carbonate. Now, the structure of cell wall, how cell wall looks like. So as I have already told you that cell wall is the outer covering of the plant cell. This is the basic diagram of a plant cell which has the outer covering. This is the outer covering, outermost covering. This is the outermost covering, and this is known as cell wall. So the outermost covering which helps in the protection of plant cell is known as cell wall. This is the basic diagram of a plant cell, and this is the cell wall. Now if you cut out this portion, then you will get a structure like this. If you cut out this section, you will get this structure. So let's discuss this structure in detail. Consider this circle part as a cell, and these are the membrane like structure. Let's consider it as a cell wall. So what happens, this cell wall, this is a wall, so this cell wall connects the neighboring cell, which means this acts as a glue between a neighboring cell. So this connect these cells. Okay, now cell wall has three major layers. So cell wall is composed of primary wall, secondary wall and middle lamella. So let's see what is the primary wall. So this is a cell, and the outermost layer, this is the outermost layer, the shaded part. The outermost layer is the primary wall, and just below this layer there is one thick layer. A thick layer is known as secondary wall. Now middle lamella, as the name suggests, it is the middle lamella. So this is the layer which connects two cells. Like this is a one cell and this is a second cell, and it acts as a glue between two cells and is known as middle lamella. So these three walls constitute a cell wall. Okay, now function. So what are the functions of cell wall? The first point is it provides definite shape, strength and rigidity to the plant cell. So what is the first function? That it provides shape, strength and rigidity. So what happens? Cell wall is made up of cellulose. Cellulose is a hard material which provides a cell wall a rigidity, and it allows the cell to not shrink. It allows it to be in shape. So it provides definite shape, strength and rigidity. Okay, now the second point is it helps in preventing water loss from the cell. As the cell wall is a rigid in nature, cell wall is rigid in nature, so it prevents the water loss from the cell. Okay, and why it is rigid? It is rigid because of cellulose. Remember this. Now the third point, it acts as a barrier between interior cellular components and the external environment. Means, now I just want to explain this with the help of this diagram. Okay, so what I have told you now, that it acts as a barrier between interior cellular components and the external environment. Okay, so it is a barrier, as it is the outer layer, it is a barrier between the external environment, which is outside the cell, and between the interior cellular components. Okay, so this is the layer which separates the cell from the environment. Okay, so it is the barrier between the external environment and the internal cellular components. Okay, now the fourth and the last point, it is responsible for transporting the substance between and across the cell. So we can easily say that as it is the outer layer, so that's why it helps in transporting the substance between and across the cell. Okay, as I have told that cell wall is made up of primary wall, secondary wall and middle lamella. So let's just see quickly its function and composition. So the first one is primary wall. So primary wall is made up of glucose, and the function is it allows the wall to stretch for purpose of growth. Okay, so this is made up of cellulose and it has some stretchability to it, which is important for growth of the cell. So it is made up of cellulose and it provides kind of stretch for the purpose of growth. Okay, now secondary wall. So what is secondary wall? Secondary wall is made up of cellulose and lignin, and it provides rigidity and waterproofing to the cell, which means that secondary wall is made up of cellulose. Cellulose means it provides a rigidity. I have told earlier, if there is cellulose means there will be a rigidity related to it. Okay, so it provides a rigidity and waterproofing to the cell. Waterproofing means, as I have told, that cell wall is responsible for the transport of the material inside or across the cell. So it protects the water loss from the cell as it performs the function of waterproofing. Okay, now the third layer is middle lamella. Middle lamella is made up of pectins and it acts as glue between neighboring cells. From the diagram you can easily see that this is the middle lamella which joins two neighboring cells, so it acts as glue. That's it. Now the next organelle is nucleus. So the definition of nucleus is, a nucleus is defined as a double membraned eukaryotic cell organelle that contains genetic material. So guys, please see this diagram. As you can see that it is present in the center of the cell, so you can say that it is a heart of the cell. Okay, so what is here, what is written here is, a nucleus is defined as double membrane. So you can just see that it is a nucleus and it is surrounded by a double membrane. Consider this a double membrane. So it is a double membraned cell organelle, okay, that contains a genetic material. So here it has a genetic material. That's why I'm saying it is the heart of the cell, because it contains our genetic material. Let's see the structure of nucleus. Okay, so this is the basic structure of nucleus. So let's see its cutout section, or this structure of nucleus in detail. So if we cut this nucleus, it appears like this. So this is a detailed structure of nucleus. So let's see. This is the outer membrane of nucleus, which is known as nuclear membrane. Okay. Now inside nucleus there is some ball-like structure which is present at the center of nucleus, is known as nucleolus. Now inside the nuclear membrane there are some fluid which are known as nucleoplasm. And also in this nucleoplasm there are the chromatin material. So now what is chromatin material? The chromatin material are those material which carry our genetic material, as in definition we have already learned that nucleus contains our genetic material. So in the form of chromatin material it has our genetic material. So this is chromatin, and attached to nucleus or the nuclear membrane you can see the infoldings which is known as endoplasmic reticulum. So endoplasmic reticulum are attached to the nuclear membrane. What is endoplasmic reticulum? It is another cell organelle. We will be discussing this further. Let's just quickly see the description about this structure. Okay, so the first point is nucleus is surrounded by membrane known as nuclear membrane. As I have already told, nucleus is surrounded by a membrane which is known as nuclear membrane. Now the second point, nuclear membrane separates the content of nucleus from cytoplasm. So what happens? According to the second point, what happens? This is the nucleus and this is the nuclear membrane, and outside this there is a cytoplasm. This fluid-like structure is known as cytoplasm. So what happens? Nuclear membrane separates the content of nucleus from the cytoplasm. So it acts as a barrier between cytoplasm and the contents of nucleus. Now the third point, fluid inside nucleus is called nucleoplasm. I have already told the fluid present inside the nucleus or nuclear membrane is known as nucleoplasm. Now the fourth point is the nucleus contain chromosomes which has features of inheritance in the form of DNA and the protein. So what happens? Nucleus contain chromosome. Nucleus has a chromosome. What is chromosome? Chromosome is that material which has the features of inheritance in the form of DNA, which is deoxyribonucleic acid, and proteins. So what happens? There are DNA which has the features of inheritance, and protein which are present in the form of chromosome inside nucleus. So nucleus contains chromosomes. Now the fifth point is chromatin has DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, which get organized at the time of cell division and gets converted into chromosome. So what happens? Chromatin materials are present inside the nucleus. Okay, so these chromatin material has DNA with it. Okay, these dots are DNA with it. Now at the time of cell division, the chromatin material get arranged into chromosomes. So we can say that nucleus has a chromosomes which has a genetic material which is DNA. Let's see the function of nucleus. So the first point is It contains the cell's hereditary information, that is genetic material. So what happens? Nucleus stores the genetic material, which are also known as cell's hereditary information. So it is stored by nucleus. So its function is the storage of genetic material. Okay. Now the second point is, it is responsible for many cellular activities such as protein synthesis, which is also known as translation, cell division and transcription. So what happens? Nucleus is responsible for these processes. So first one is protein synthesis, which is also known as translation. So this process takes place with the help of nucleus. And the cell division. Cell division is the division of the cell into two or many. So this also happens with the help of nucleus. And transcription, which is a process of creating different types of RNA from DNA. As DNA is present inside the nucleus, so this process also takes place with the help of nucleus. So if you guys want a detailed explanation on protein synthesis or translation or transcription and cell division, then please comment below. I'll explain it.